Well, an article was published in The Guardian yesterday titled Russell Brand's Descent into Conspiracy Politics. Now, this article consists of 4 responses to an article by George Monbiot, which talked about Russell Brand's grim trajectory, which is not a trajectory of agreeing with Ryan Grimm, I guess, how it shows us where politics is heading. The first writer, Jonathan Allen, starts by saying Brand's conspirators are just the usual suspects: Nancy Pelosi, Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, etc. Monbiot finds his lack of originality dispiriting. I find it curiously encouraging. If the conspiracists can't come up with any new material, they will find their audience tiring of the same old tunes and the same old puppet masters.
This is a whole genre of article. The what happened to X person. It's been written about Matt Taibbi. It's been written about Glenn Greenwald. And I think it's a real tell, because instead of focusing on specific arguments that they disagree with, because of course, pick any human name out of a hat, they're going to have positions that I agree with and disagree with. As you know, there's something I'm sure I can agree with Hillary Clinton on, and there's plenty I can disagree with, Glenn Greenwald on, right? But instead of doing that, they show their hand by making these broad, generalized claims about how they've just gone off the farm and how they're just not who they used to be, which is a tacit admission that these are smart people who do good investigative work, who are popular and have an audience as a consequence of the depth of their reporting. And in Russell Brand's case, I think the humor and joie de vivre that he brings to his subject matter, without being willing to explain that maybe they haven't moved as much as the general public has moved away on some of these new issues.
I think that's the important part. They're asking, why has Russell Brand moved? I'm like, well, who has moved here? Because criticizing a lot of those corporate Democratic leaders like Nancy Pelosi, the World Economic Forum, where they have meetings about misinformation and how it's the most toxic problem and they need to prevent you from consuming speech you don't agree with on social media. Right, Bill Gates, a major corporate player, very wealthy man who's investing and advising on public policy. Matters to us all. What these subjects are now beyond criticism.
Yeah.
A lot of these things used to be things progressives or some people on the left were criticizing. The fusion of corporate power and government power and global power, etc. What's happened is, because of our polarized society, is these things are now being very sordid, and it's much more common. If you were very worked up about those things, you're now more likely than you were before to be on the right, and that is dispiriting. I think, for people who used to criticize those things, but now could never say they have anything in common with a person on the right. So they have to stop talking about those things.
Imagine saying Russell Brand isn't on the left because he's unwilling to because he's willing to criticize Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
Your leftist bona fides are proven by defending Nancy Pelosi at all costs, defending Bill Gates and Epstein's Island at all costs, defending the pharmaceutical industries at all costs.
Defending MSNBC and CNN and other targets.
And by the way, I just went to Russell Brand's YouTube page to get a sense of, what are the topics he's been talking about lately. His most popular videos are debating conservative Ben Shapiro, debating conservative Candace Owens. There's 2 Candace Owens debates in the top-ranked videos, and debating right-leaning Jordan Peterson. Moreover, his most recent content is about billionaires cheating, Amazon cheating, another billionaire's video, a video about the largest wealth transfer in history going to elites. Seems to me those are all very progressive leftist topics to talk about. But somehow we live in a topsy-turvy world where, I don't know, covering the growing gap between the 1% and the 99% is considered to be a small peccadillo on the side, and what you really should be talking about is boosting Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democratic Party.
Mainstream liberals and Democrats in the media don't want to have debates about some of these things anymore. They regard actually debates as an opportunity for people to consume information that is wrong, and thus they're scary and dangerous and somehow a threat to democracy.
Yeah, it's platforming. People like Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro have enormous platforms, but they'll use that excuse to say, well, you shouldn't be giving them any oxygen. Well, how about having some confidence that engaging with these people on their platforms with superior ideas can actually start to change some people's hearts
They've
and minds.
lost all confidence in the idea that you could persuade some people.
Right.
Or that maybe you can't persuade the person you're debating, but that you can come out looking better and you'll persuade people listening to the show.
Absolutely.
Which is just intrinsically like the opposite value of what we practice here.
100%. Well, another critic in the piece, Andy Ruff, said, quote, "It's sad to see what was a rare positive and inspiring voice in the darkness descend into a murky, click-rate-driven negative feedback loop where free thinking meets Andrew Tate-style red pilling. It's a far cry from the message of tolerance and unity in search of fairness that we used to hear from his corner."
I don't know Russell Brand at all. Obviously, I've never met him. I've seen some of the movies he's in. I was not very familiar with his political commentary until recently. From what I've seen of him, I could not imagine someone who is more dissimilar from Andrew Tate.
He's a feminist. He's a wellness guy. He's a bleeding heart. Like, you're get in touch with your emotions.
He seems friendly and cuddly.
Let's do a yoga retreat barefoot sort of guy, not a toxic masculinity Andrew Tate sort of guy.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good point. It's very telling that the people who are loudest about a lot of these figures have obviously never engaged with any of their content. And so it begs the question, why is there so much venom directed toward folks like Russell Brand? I think part of it is jealousy, that folks like Russell Brand are independent, have managed to pull huge audiences, can get 1 million clicks on videos multiple times a week, whereas entire media enterprises like CNN Plus, with all of the infrastructure of CNN behind it, couldn't get 10,000 clicks on a video.
I mean, that honestly is probably the biggest factor. It's professional jealousy. And he's getting huge views on YouTube, on Rumble, where he has a show, millions of people watching, and the mainstream media has no control over it. It's just outside their gatekeeping ability.
Right, and he's criticizing them. Right. So when he's using platforms that are direct competitors to theirs, and it's very easy to smear the platform, right? Oh, you're on Substack. That used to be the mark of Cain to even be associated with Substack. Then it became apps like Rumble or Colin, or whoever it is. You can just smear someone based on where they're being hosted. But also the fact that at the end of the day, even without all of that infrastructure, these people are successful because they're truthful, and they're talking about issues that the mainstream media, frankly, because of its own biases, are not willing to trust. And I gotta say, willing to touch rather. And I gotta say about Russell Brand, I don't think he gets enough credit for being genuinely entertaining and delightful in his approach to these issues, and just funny. He's a comedian, and people want a break. People want to laugh in the middle of their nonstop political coverage, and he's figured out a way to be really appealing in a way that I think the mainstream news is very much struggling with right now.
Indeed. Instead of fretting that it's so dangerous to society that people are learning from Russell Brand, maybe ask yourself why more people want to watch him than you. Even if you're not going to copy the content or agree with him, maybe just find something about the format that's enjoyable.
Yeah, why isn't CNN Plus? They should have thrown their budget at Russell Brand, and he could have brought them more viewers than their entire slate of programming.
Do that. All right, well, that does it for us tomorrow on Rising. Brianna, I am so sad to share that I will actually be out tomorrow, so we'll have a guest host. You'll see Batya taking the helm. And that'll be fun, but I'll be back on Monday for a very big, very special show then. We're actually unveiling some changes.
Yeah, it'll be a fun new look happening next week, so be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you see new videos coming down the pike, so you don't miss any new content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while on the go, don't forget that we are available in podcast form. I often accidentally say welcome to the podcast on this show, and then I have to remind myself
can say that.
this is a podcast, but it is a podcast.
All things are the same things.
Everything. It's the podcastification of America. I'm happy to be on this train.
All right, I'll see you guys next week, and please do tune in tomorrow.
Bye-bye.